You're listening to XS Gaming Podcast, a podcast for gamers by gamers, with your hosts Xander Skullion and James Gruesome, bringing you something old, something new, and a little bit of nostalgia too.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of XS Gaming Podcast. Hope you guys are having a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever time you guys are checking us out. This is episode 90, the real episode 90. I got way too excited last episode in 89. I'm like, oh, it's episode 90, and it really wasn't. But we're recording this on the 4th of August, 2016. I'm one of your hosts, Xander Skullion, and joined with me is my wonderful co-host, Mr. James Gruesome. What's up, James?
Greetings and salutations, everyone. And don't worry, I never know what episode it is, actually, until you say what it is right beforehand. So I hope you all are doing wonderful, and I hope, like me, you're having an unseasonably not-so-hot summer, because it's actually been pretty okay these past couple days. Under 90, I can't complain, but I hope you all are doing great.
And, like, I don't know about how it is over in your neck of the woods, but we've had, like, some really awesome, like, nightly thunderstorms.
The rain lately has been, even the past couple of weeks, as we talk about on excess weather forecast.
We always talk about the weather.
We do, but it rained. It rained so much, and it's kind of disappointing because I had to get my grass cut every week, and I was like, this sucks. I could be using this money for something fun, but at the same time, I'm like, hey, at least I don't have to cut it. I would still rather pay. And it's not that I'm lazy. I just really, I think I'm allergic to my grass or something, because every time I try to do it, I've had these horrible skin breakouts, and I was like, you know what? Just not worth it. So the rain has been, I like the nightly thunderstorms.
Yeah, I've been really digging it. And yeah, it hasn't been as hot. And, you know, with my job now, I'm no longer working out of town. I'm a little bit more local, and we've been working a lot more inside, so that's been great too. I mean, we've been doing some renovations on, like, you know, like dentist, you know, offices and stuff like that. So they always crank up the AC, so that's been a lot of fun. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff to kind of talk about, especially news wise. I want to start first with these freaking plug and plays. Now, last episode we had, you know, our friend Anthony, and we were all talking about the mini NES, and, you know, I'm still looking forward to it. I know you are too, James, but we've gotten some new plug and plays, and the first one I want to talk about is probably the most obscure and weirdest plug and play. I did not think they would do this, and they did a Kickstarter for it. It's the Arcade, a classic Christian video game plug and play. Now, this is put out, of course, by Wisdom Tree. If you don't know who Wisdom Tree is, Wisdom Tree, you know, they made other games other than, like, Christian games, but this is what they're kind of known for. They've always made these Christian games on the NES and the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, and apparently they've made this little plug and play. It's already funded. It's going to be coming out. And it's got titles including Sunday Funday, Spiritual Warfare, Joshua the Battle of Jericho, Exodus, Bible Adventures, King of Kings, and Bible Buffet. What's your thoughts about this, James?
Yeah, it's just kind of like, wow, it is a curiosity. I love the idea behind it. I mean, these games, a lot of them are kind of terrible. I'm actually a really big fan of a Spiritual Warfare.
I was about to say that's the one I really like.
A lot of people that have played those, you know, would agree that one, it's a Zelda ripoff.
Oh, yeah.
Completely. I always thought that was kind of funny. It's like this Christian company stealing pretty much another game, but it's one of those ones you play and it has trivia. If you have any basic Bible knowledge, you can get the answers.
And his little bow tie would spin when you get the answer right. I loved it.
It's just a really cool game. Like I said, it plays just like Zelda. You know, it has like hidden dungeons, a lot of the exact same stages. You know, like it's just surprising they just didn't get sued over that. As far as that I know, there was never any threat of a lawsuit. But just a funny little collection of games. And I mean, some of these are, you know, a lot of people like to collect them just because they're really just oddities in the whole sense that they weren't licensed in the first place. yet they managed to come out, and just people promoting. They kind of used the your kids are going to play games and you don't want them to, but get them to learn about the Bible and have them play this. And I'm sure a lot of kids got stuck with those games, and they're like, man, but at the same time, maybe they wouldn't. A lot of parents are really strict, and they only would allow certain types of games and entertainment. So that could have been some kids' only chance of actually getting to play some video games. And with some of them being, like I said, like Spiritual Warfare, actually pretty good. At least the kid wasn't completely left in the dark with like no games, but just the idea of it, I like it. I think that's cool that it did get funded. And I might actually look into it myself. I know they have a setup. Aren't they making like cartridges? They're also making like just a controller, a lot of different ways of it.
Yeah, they're making all sorts of crazy stuff, and I think Wisdom Tree over the years has gotten kind of like that same feeling of, say, movie collectors, collecting something that's so terribly bad because it is terribly bad. Because, some of these games were not that great. I mean, Spiritual Warfare was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that one. And that was usually the one that people always, praise. That one and the Noah's Ark 3D. Because of the value, and of course it was just pretty much Wolfenstein, but with animals, and you were like knocking them out with a slingshot.
Yeah, that was the one I had heard. I believe it was, I don't know if it was id didn't like the port or what Nintendo did to Doom.
Yeah.
When it came out, and I think they just gave the engine to Wisdom Tree to make the Noah's Ark, because like I said, they're all unlicensed. I think they just kind of did it as like a joke and like a middle finger to Nintendo.
Yeah.
Which that in itself is kind of funny. I have Bible Adventures. I thought I was getting Spiritual Warfare. Well, I thought the guy had that one too, but he was like, oh, I'm sorry. He's like, I don't. I just have the Bible Adventure. So I got that, for, I think I paid like $10. And that one has like 3 games on it. Where you got to carry around the animals. There's like a Noah's Ark one.
Oh, yeah.
So like a Moses one. And like it gives them variety. It's decent. I mean, compared to some other games, really, I mean, there is much worse than Wisdom Tree games.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at some of the goals, because I mean, it did get funded. I'm thinking, I'm not sure by the time I upload this episode if this campaign will still be going, because as of now, it's got 9 more days. But it is funded, and I'm looking at some of the backing, like perks. Let's say, like, if you pledge at least $15, you get Super Noah's Ark 3D PC Fiscal Edition. And I'm going all the way down to, I usually always look at the $60 perk, because, that's like the price of a new game, and it's like, if they offer something really cool for $60, I'm like, all right, that's awesome. And so far, it looks like if you pledge $60 or more, you get the NES Collection Multi-Cart complete inbox. You receive a complete inbox version of Wisdom Tree Collection Multi-Cart. It includes a cardboard box, a color instruction manual, and a standard gray game cartridge. The game is compatible with the original NES console. So you get like a little, gray cart of a Wisdom Tree collection. That's kind of cool.
It's nice. Like you said, that price range is always good to look at. Me and you are kind of the same. It's that, well, I could spend this on a new game that I might play, just 3 times and then never touch again. Or here I could have a nice little collector curiosity item and something. I know I would pop in and play Spiritual Warfare for sure.
Now, did you ever play the Genesis version of Spiritual Warfare?
I'm trying to think if I have it on my emulators. I'm sure I did play it. If I saw it on there, I know I would have, just because I'm such a fan of that game. But I can't, isn't it really, it's pretty much like the same. I don't know if it had too many like graphical upgrades or.
The music was a little better. It looked a little better. It wasn't, it wasn't like night and day. It wasn't like holy, literally holy, but it was, it upped it up a little bit. It like kind of upscaled it, but it was pretty much the same game. The sound just had more tings like a Genesis sound would.
Yeah, I know one of the things they were talking about for one of the, like, I think if they raised a big sum of money, over the goal, they were talking about doing a port of, the Noah's Ark 3D onto the Genesis, which I don't think was ever on Genesis.
And they were going to talk about making a port of it on the Dreamcast.
Oh yeah, that too.
I mean, wouldn't that be a great game to have on the Dreamcast? Be like, yeah, I got Shenmue 2, Noah's Ark 3D. What?
Sweet, they could add like an online
oh gosh
to it or something.
Oh my god, just imagine like an online, death match, but instead of you're like going after animals and you're trying to, it's like capture the flag or like protecting your base, but you're trying to see who can fill up the arc the quickest in each team.
This is just, it's one of those cases where I love seeing things like this. I'd like to see more, and hopefully with the kind of popularity and just weirdness of this, that some other companies that have some rights to some games will think about doing more, of this, especially with these plug and plays becoming so hot. They're a very fun, affordable way. A lot of them don't take up very much room at all. I think just them in general are really good ideas, and just like I said, this one, some have a lot of amazing games. This one is just such a curiosity piece that you can't help but just kind of smile when you hear, people, well, what were they, it's just like, no, it's like, oh man, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And I mean, like, and just talking still about the plug and plays, because I mean, we could probably do a whole episode on Wisdom Tree. That's a good idea. But the retro bit generations. Now this is a plug and play.
We do usually record on Sundays. It would be
oh my gosh, dude! I'm gonna write that down. But retro bit generations. Now retro bit, which is funny because Retrobit recently started following me on Instagram. I posted something like, I think it was like a picture of Mega Man or something, and they were like, oh, if you like retro games, you should check out our website. And I'm like, I know you guys. Because, Retrobit's the guys that make the Retro Duo, the Retro Trio. They've also, done a lot of third-party, like, controllers and stuff like that.
But definitely one of the top, along with Hyperkin and one other company, one of the top 3. And I've heard
Stone Age Gamer is another one too.
I've heard lately that they've had really good quality and compatibility as far as some of the other ones like wouldn't play certain games, that they've got a really good level of that. So
yeah, I mean comparing the Hyperkin's Retron 5 and Retrobit's Retro Trio, the Retro Trio is actually more authentic, and people have said it's played more than the Retron 5, because the Retron 5 was pretty much a glorified emulation box that would take the ROM from the cart and rip it into the game, where the Retro Trio actually still played the original hardware. But yeah, they're coming out with the plug and play. It's called Retrobit Generations, and this is one that you and I have been really eyeballing, because it's not just going to be focused on, one certain company, like, the Nintendo Mini is like, Nintendo games, or, Wisdom Tree is about Wisdom Tree. This is going to be a collection of many third-party licensed game companies that we've came to love. And we're talking about Capcom, Irem, Data East, and Jaleco. And they got a pretty good solid amount of games. Now, they're claiming they're going to have 100 games on this plug and play, and they haven't released a full list. They say, some of the games are going to be on here. It's going to be games like Ghouls and Ghosts, Gunsmoke, Kid Nicky, The Radical Ninja, Kung Fu, Captain Commando, Rival Turf, Super R-Type, the Super Bases Loaded series, Knights of the Round, Brawl Brothers, and Ring King, and more. And I haven't seen that and more yet, but just from this collection right here, I'm like, here's my $60. This sounds awesome.
Yeah, from the start. And, we'd heard about this a while back and meant to talk about it a few episodes ago, but just probably forgot through some technical difficulties at the beginning. But, that list of games, since I've heard about it, has stayed the same. And initially I heard 60. The latest report's been 100. And I hear it's going to have, which I was kind of wondering, at first I thought it was arcade games. Then as I heard, Super R-Type, Bases Loaded, I was like, well, I don't think those were arcade games. But I think it's still going to have a good mixture. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's going to have a focus on both, because the ones on the list, most of them did have arcade versions, and that just would be, I think really great. Either way, with that amount of games, a very small system, like I said, it doesn't take up, much space at all.
Yeah, it's really small.
Controllers look, pretty cool. And just, that amount of games at that price, it's, really tough to beat. A lot of the collections, I have a Data East collection on the Wii that I love. It is only like 20 games, so who knows and there's some I thought like, man, I would have liked to have played, Karnov. Like, why is that not on here? And it might not be on this new one, but it might be. I think it's going to turn out good. I would like to see a few more games on the list so far, maybe a little bit of clarification for sure on which versions might be arcade, or will it have arcade stuff for sure. I'd hate to be wrong on that. Not just because of being wrong, but just because I'd really like to have the arcade versions. But
yeah.
Either way, it's great. A game like King of Dragons on Super NES, either way, that's one of those very, more higher priced titles. One of those probably $70-$80.
Yeah, I'm really curious. One of the things that I definitely want to talk about is the fact it comes with 2 controllers. They're USB controllers, so that's good to know. That is actually going to be a USB input. So if you don't like these controllers, you could probably use a PlayStation 4 controller or Xbox 360.
Yeah, they look kind of
they look like Genesis.
Sega Saturn-ish a little bit.
Yeah,
like 6-button Genesis. Yeah, kind of around that format is how they look.
And it's also going to be, AV or HDMI, which I think that's kind of cool. I mean, I'm definitely going to be going with the HDMI, but, maybe if you want that super retroness, nostalgia, you can use AV and hook it up to a tube television. I think that's cool. I'm just, the only thing that I'm really curious about, and I'm just like, I hope they don't screw it up, is the emulation. I hope the emulation's not shot, If the games start getting kind of finicky or something like that would be kind of unfortunate. Also, something I saw that we talked about right before we started recording, it says it will also have an SD card slot for save data transfers. Now, that's really cool, but it also raises another little question here, because, James, I was telling you earlier, I'm like, they can't say, we're going to add that SD card slot so you can put more ROMs on it, because ROMs are technically in that black and white shade of gray illegal area to some people with different morals and everything. So they couldn't say that, but I'm wondering if you could possibly put more ROMs on it, or, like I told you earlier, even if you can't put ROMs on it, buy retrobits. Someone's going to figure out how to manipulate the SD card slot and start putting, like, more stuff on it. So,
yeah, it leaves you options. There's so many ways now, whether it's Raspberry Pis, things like that, but people just like to have the options. And if you already have a little, box you have hooked up, you might as well be able to add some more to it. It would be nice. Like you said, it's not something you can flat out just advertise as it being able to do. Kind of use that cover up of the save states, which I don't think actually any other systems have had save states before.
No.
For the ones, which might have had to do with the fact that it is actually, playing the cartridges. Just, it leaves it kind of open, you get a whole lot of games with it, and people always like to do things to add more. So it's supposed to be coming out, I hear, from somewhere between like September to November. I imagine we'll get slammed with a whole bunch of, new info on it, maybe like all at once right before it comes out. Because with it coming up that soon, they've got to be having, I imagine, things a little bit more lined up than as far as what it seems at the moment.
Well, I know my local retro store here in town, Game Giant, they do a lot of Hyperkin stuff. Like, they carry a lot of Hyperkin items, and I'm going to try to talk to them and see if they'll get this retro bit in, because right now, from what it looks like, the only place that you can get this console is off their website, which, worst comes to worst, I'll order it. But if I can go into a retro store like Game Giant and, support Game Giant, support retro bit, that'd be awesome. That'd be the bee's knees.
Yeah, and the price point too on everything I hear is $60.
Yeah,
that's that that really good limit on it. And it's one, I said I'd like to, order that, to start putting up for some type of pre-order. I would do that too, because it's something I know I already just want to get. And I don't imagine any stores near me. Second Charles is the one, they carry a lot of Retrons and such, and the, Second Brand controllers. They're the only store I imagine around me that would carry it, but it's one, I don't know if they'll have it, that first day, and I'd like to go ahead and get it as soon as I can. So, yeah,
and I mean, I noticed about 2 weeks ago the importance and why plug and plays are so awesome, because my friend Devin, he moved back in town, and I was at his house, and we were all having like a welcome home party, and everyone was playing Magic. And, listening to music. I can't get into Magic. I want to get into Magic, but it's just, I can't comprehend it. And plus, I was kind of drunk at the time.
So we're like pulling rabbits out of hats and stuff?
No, like Magic, Magic the Gathering. They're like, here's my mana card. But I brought my Ouya, and I hooked it up to his TV, and it was great because, I had my Ouya, and I had my 16 gig memory stick that had full of arcade games, so it was kind of nice how small the Ouya was, and I could just be like, come over and be like, boom, here's a bunch of retro games. So that's what I kind of like about these plug and plays. If I had like the retro bit generations, I can come over there and be like, hey, you want to play some Ghouls and Ghosts? Boom, there it is, or, Captain Commando. So, I mean, like, I really think the practical effects of the plug and play, I do like them, and I like the fact that they seem to be getting better in quality in a very short a span of time. I mean, we've had plug and plays for a couple of years, but it's just like, boom, I don't know, it feels like it's like some new thing.
Yeah, from starting off, I remember earlier, we always had the Atari flashbacks for a long time, and a lot of people have been critical about at-games, quality as far as like the Genesis one, which I had. And I mean, for the price I paid, it plays cartridges, has a lot of games on it. It does have a bunch of garbage, but I think it had about, 80 actual games on it too. And then like another 40, just kind of crappy ones. But still, for the price, I didn't think it, it was that bad. And, speaking of that, we see that pop up more now.
Yeah,
with the Nintendo, Sega's coming back at it.
Oh my gosh, I had to.
It's been around for years.
I had to make like a little video on my Facebook because I honestly, dude, that day that some website made some clickbait article and it spread.
Console wars are at it again,
and it spread like wildfire. And I had 17 people tag me on Facebook with this article being like, dude, it's like the 90s again. And I'm like, no, it's not, and I had to make a video and be like, this thing has been out for years and it's garbage. It's not that great. Now I was kind of pissed off when I was making the video because I was so irritated. It's not that bad, but it's not that good either. I will say the one good thing about the At Games Sega Genesis, it's small, it's got a cartridge slot, and it's region free. So if you do find one at because they do sell them at Family Dollar, if you find one at Family Dollar for less than $20 and you want a region free Sega Genesis, there you go.
Yeah, I got mine for $20. It's coming, if you want to come from a non-technical aspect of it coming from me, you get some people like, oh, this sound, or this graphic megahertz of something that I don't understand in bits, just from as far as having built-in games, pretty good lineup, and you can play crap on it at a good price. I say go for it. If you're into the technicality and super critical of the blah blah, and maybe it's not for you, but for what it is, it's great. Along with the Coleco television Atari, I think for the price points, as they drop down a lot of them to the $20, you really can't beat it, on any of them. But like you said, we're starting to get more quality. Nintendo, that one's going to be just slamming quality.
Oh
this
yeah.
Retrobit one, just from their reputation lately, they've had good stuff. We're just being kind of hopeful that we think this one's going to turn out really good too. I still remember one. Kind of some of the plug and plays we remember initially were more controllers with games built into them. And I remember there was a Commodore one that I'd always kind of wanted. It had I want to say maybe 30 games on it. And I remember it being kind of expensive. I missed its initial release. You could only get it secondhand, and it had gone up to around like 60. And I just couldn't really justify paying it, you know? And I think it's kind of gone like up and up. But that was one that was a little bit more one of the odd ones. You know, you have your Froggers, your Pac-Mans, your Namcos. Then you have your, you know, little Star Wars ones and Barbies and, you know, all kinds of SpongeBobs. But we're seeing more and more better ones, more and more stuff that we really actually want to play instead of stuff that's just like, oh, this looks kind of neat, it's cheap. You know, this is more actually like really good stuff.
Yeah, well, before I close this and we go to our break, I was listening to you, but I thought of a really good analogy for At Games, the Fire Core Sega Genesis. It's like McDonald's, you know, it's cheap. It's good. We know it's not the best for you, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Definitely, but
it does the job.
But yeah, when we come back, we're going to be talking about some of our favorite gangster video games, like games that, you know, deal with the mafia and Yakuzas and gangs and all that stuff. And the song we'll be playing, guys, is probably one of me and James' favorite songs from the Scarface soundtrack. We'll be right back, guys. And we are back, guys, and that's possibly one of my favorite songs. That's such a motivational song.
It's up there with, you know, Rocky and Karate Kid songs. It's just...
It's the perfect montage.
Yeah.
And every 80s movie had a montage. If it didn't have a montage, I was really upset.
It's just a little bit more, you know, cocaine than karate kicks and punches. But, you know, to each their own. Yeah. It's the 80s.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about some of our favorite gangster games, and I kind of want to open this up because right now on PlayStation Plus for the PS3, there's a little free game that you can download that, James, I think that you would really recommend for everyone to check out.
You know, I would say this is a game I waited a very long time for, and through the demand of fans and, you know, just Sony and Sega and everybody working together, Yakuza 5 finally came out here. And, you know, we got this game last November, and I thought it had a very, very fair price when it came out, $40 for a downloadable game. It's only downloadable. That's the only way we were going to get it. There is no physical copy. If you pre-ordered it, it was even less. And now it's even less than that.
It's
by
free.
Being completely free. And I mean, what better way, to go ahead and check a game like this out? It's out there. It's free. This one, it's a little bit different. Sometimes when I recommend people starting off with the Yakuza series, I try to give them ones that are, a little bit more opening. The only thing odd about this one is you kind of start out as a taxi driver, which is a little bit different. And it does seem like it would be kind of like, man, taxi. Even me, I was kind of like, huh. But it ends up being really fun. You have a lot of conversations. You get into it right away. It can kind of catch you from the start as far as the story and the interactions with people is really cool. And it gives you like a great racing mode, which you can play the Daytona song. It's just I had a lot of fun, with the racing on there, and that was completely new. It's the first time it's ever had cars you drive around in. That's one thing about the series. There is no cars, but I always recommend 1 is a great one, 4 is a great one. But if you got PS Plus, and like we said, it's only on PS3. It's a great way, I think, to start it out. It's one of those games I'd recommend if you do just give it a little chance. Pass the taxi missions, and you'll start kicking some ass before too long, and I think that's when it'll really grab people. But man, I love it. I've got 85 hours into mine so far, and I've still got like a chapter and a half left. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to hit way over 100. There's lots of just screwing around to do. To visit arcade. Like I said, for people, if you guys out there like Shenmue, you really want Shenmue sucks. Okay, I'm sorry. It's boring. It's just, play Yakuza, man.
And everyone stopped listening. They're like, fuck these guys.
I understand, man. I like Shenmue too. I did. I really liked Shenmue until I played Yakuza, because it's like, wow. Because the fighting, man, that's one of the big points. And Shenmue just kind of lacked that till the end, and it had the story. But man, this has the story, the fighting. I always compared it to River City Ransom. You can go around and eat food, and it gives you experience points. And a chef, he'll give you tips on eating, and like certain foods will even give you more bonuses. It's just really so much to do in that. It's a series that, to me, just keeps getting better and better. And if you've never played it, you got a PS4. January 27th of next year, we're getting Yakuza 0.
Yeah,
which
I'm
is
getting that.
Prequel. And once again, I say, what better way to start too than with a prequel if you want to get from that. I know that's going to be amazing. I've heard nothing but good stuff.
Yeah, that's going to be one that, because man, I've been wanting to play the series since we started the podcast. I mean, because when we started the podcast, like, I had heard of the game, and I was always kind of interested, but at that time when it was coming out, Grand Theft Auto was so big, and they had a lot of Grand Theft Auto clones. Like, they had True Crime, and they had a State of Emergency, stuff like. The State of Emergency was so bad. That was such a bad game.
Earlier, I was just looking at different games, like, man, what was that really bad one? But you're right. It came out in 2006. I don't know if it was something I read about it, and I was like, man, this sounds cool. I like the idea, the Yakuza. It's always been interesting in movies. Mm-hmm. It's something about it. Maybe there was some comparisons in a review to Shenmue. It just, there was something about it. And I remember, getting it, and it just really grabbed me. And it's become, like I've said over time, like it's my favorite series. I'm like, it's the only game I really need. It kind of, it depicts what system I buy. It's like, I've just really gotten hooked on it. It's quite amazing, but I could see how I could get lost in the shuffle, because we really did get overloaded with a lot of these games, which is kind of what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, True Crime was definitely one of them. I never played that one. One that I really did enjoy, and one of the reasons why I played that little montage music, was Scarface, The World Is Yours. I really liked this game, and the reason why is because I really enjoyed Scarface. It's probably one of my favorite movies of all time, just one of them.
And Scarface, we'll talk about it for a moment. I mean, it was a movie that at one time, very popular in the rap community.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of references from many different rappers. And it was a movie that was notoriously throughout the country, and even here, like in my town, people would steal this because, lots of times VHS movies, when they came out back, 80s, even 90s sometimes, retailed $80 to $100 or more. And Scarface was actually a movie that had gone out of print. So it even went up, of course, higher. And people would steal the tape. They'd rent it and just steal it because you'd always have the box sitting on the shelf, and that movie was never there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I had it on VHS, and it was one of the VHSs or movies that you would get that was like a double VHS. I mean,
yeah,
it was something ahead of its time. And this game, what I like about this game, it's not just, Scarface the video game. It's a Scarface what if, spoiler alert, Tony Montana gets killed at the end of Scarface. But with this game, it's like, what if Tony Montana actually survived? And how would he go back up from power and, take down the people who betrayed him? I thought it was really cool. And one of the things that I really liked about the game was the fact that it was pure Tony Montana in the sense that, unlike Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that, you couldn't just go out and kill random people. Because, Tony Montana, even though he was a notorious drug lord, he had morals. I mean, that's what kind of got him killed, because he decided he didn't want to kill that one mob boss.
Don't kill children.
Yeah, because the kid. Yeah, so, I mean, you couldn't just go out there and play like Grand Theft Auto and, drive your car into people and get out and start shooting. Like, you had to still follow this Tony Montana code of ethics. And, you had like the blind rage feature, and then you had like the balls meter.
You had a cussing button too.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really cool game. And it's a game that, I feel like it's got kind of lost in the last couple of years. You don't really hear people talk about it as much. But, if you collect a lot of 6th gen like PS2 and Xbox, this is definitely a game you need to put on your list. This is a fantastic title. Especially,
like you said, if you're a fan of the movie at all, it's not going to be very expensive. It's got a really cool soundtrack. Vice City took many inspirations from Scarface. And this, they kind of decided, hey, let us do it. And, it had, Al Pacino licensed out. I know his license. And I remember hearing, like, he didn't do The Godfather, because I'm not even positive he did the voice on the game.
He didn't.
Okay, I know. I think he was planning to, because that's why he passed on the Godfather game, and I guess something happened in between. But they did have a pretty good impersonator, I think, on there. And like you say, you avoid getting killed at the end at the mansion, and you kind of have to start back up in the beginning, doing low-level drug runs and kind of build yourself up like some other games did. You kind of start from dirt. But like you said, as far as the GTA clones, it is definitely one to me that stands out. Just lots of fun, and it's a damn good game.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of Godfather, that was also a really fun game. The Godfather video game on PS2 and Xbox. It was very, very story-driven. And, battling the rival families, and that was a really fun game.
Yeah, it fell in, with the story of the movie. You were a side character. You were a guy who, lots of times things that happen in the movie that, you didn't know how they happened, like, or who put the horse head in the bed? It was you. You're the guy that did lots of things that happened off screen. And so they managed to, follow the story. You had, a lot of the actors, Robert Duvall, I think, maybe, I don't know if James Caan did anything for it, but they even had, this bad, man, what's his name? Who's the Godfather?
Marlon Brando, yeah.
They even had him. He did some of his last voice acting for this game, but it was so bad that they really couldn't use any of it because he was very sick at the time. So they might have used a couple clips, but most of it they just couldn't. it's kind of, it falls along the story. I enjoyed it. I didn't really like having to constantly fight off rival families from your turf.
Yeah.
You had to get these certain warehouses and buildings you'd take over, and you'd be doing something else across town, and you'd get, hey, they're attacking us over here, so you got to go over there. Lots of shootouts. I could see how some people would like that. I could have done, without that part, but I still thought it was cool how they took a classic movie and was, kind of able to intersperse, a new character in it, and you could still go through and do what happened. And like you said with these games, the really big kickoff. I had some friends that had played Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2, overhead. Anybody's played of GTA is that from 3 on up, it started off completely different. I mean, still kind of violent, controversial, but not nearly as what it got. But, overhead, very kind of simple looking graphics. I never really got into it. 3 was the one that really hit and just kind of, a seriously like historic point, in video games with part 3.
Yeah. Part 3 was an eye opener for me because I remember that was when I had just gotten my PS2 and I heard about it through, trailers and some of my friends talked about it. And I already knew about the Grand Theft Auto series. And I was like you, it was like overhead and I was like, I don't really feel like playing that, But, this one wasn't overhead and it just had such a cinematic look. I remember watching the trailer and it had like the opera singer, going in the background and, people were like, oh, this is good. You're going to make lots of money doing this, and it shows like a car going through a window. And I was like, man, this is going to be really cool. And it really was. And I think this is what attracts us to these kind of games, especially when they give us that kind of freedom. Because we're able to do the things that, normally, of course, we would never be able to do. Or, we wouldn't want to do, because we'd end up in jail.
Yeah, it's like you said. I mean, I like to randomly kill people on video games. I would play Platoon, and I would kill the villagers. I'm not any kind of psycho or anything that I know of. I don't have any problems. I'm not major, and, I'm not going to, go out and do anything. But I like to kill random innocent people on video games, and this allowed you to do that. But so much more with the driving, the jumping off, buildings, the ramps, and things like it just became so, it was so much. It's like, how could you take this seriously? It's like you go get a hooker and the car bounces and then you shoot her and take your money back. I could see, it definitely wasn't a game for kids, but when you look on some of the other hands, the really good things, the voice actors, they got, lots of people famous from, gangster movies, like I believe the, Joe Pantoliano, or another guy with a name like that, Michael Madsen, Frank Vincent, who, was on the, Sopranos. Just great voice actors, great music. Really was a huge game when you think about it. And I can only imagine what would have happened if somehow that game had bombed. It had to have taken a lot. And a game we've talked about, I have before on the 64, kind of was the first pattern, for Grand Theft Auto as the open world game. And as I was talking, I was trying to think of what that game was called because it had slipped my mind. But it was something with some aliens and, you could drive around in cars or go in buildings, interact with people. And that was the start of it. Very simple, but they improved on it so much. And like I said, the driving, it really was a game that you had to get. And it really did feel like it just changed games. And anytime you have a game, that big, like we said, you get a lot of spawns and copies. Coming out with GTA Vice City, which was, even bigger, grander.
It's my favorite.
It's everybody's favorite GTA. It's everybody's favorite. Just total 80s, like we said, Scarface feel. Your character this time, voiced by Ray Liotta, you were silent in the first one. You had other voices, but this one just stepped it up even more. Radio stations. You have just channels of just talk radio on there.
I actually would love to talk radio. That was probably something I'd listen to. And did you know that in the talk radio stations, when they'd have like an advertisement and it'd be like, call 1-800, blah, 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 those were real numbers.
I think I might have heard something about that before. And would they just have recorded messages and things?
Yeah, it would be like a little pre-recorded little advertisement for Vice City, but it would be in character. It would break the fourth wall, and it was a lot of fun. And another great example about Grand Theft Auto, about the whole fantasy of it, and this is probably the way you are with the Yakuza series. My friend Ross the Boss,
Ross the Boss,
he's a huge Grand Theft Auto fan. And honestly, hearing his stories about Grand Theft Auto 5, stuff that he does with his team, and it's amazing. It's almost more fun than playing the actual game, the stuff that he talks about. And, I remember, and I still need to go online and play with him, because, when I got my PS4 and I got Grand Theft Auto 5 because of him, because the way he talked about it. He was like, yeah, man, he's like, you get your PS4, get Grand Theft Auto 5. He was like, I have a plane ticket for you, and talking about the game. And I was going to go over to his town, and he was going to show me around. We were going to play golf, and
he has parties on his boats and stuff.
Yeah. He's got a yacht. It is amazing. And I think that's the epitome of these kind of games that people love so much. It's the fact that it's the ultimate realistic fantasy. You can play games like Elder Scrolls and, MMOs, these fantasy kind of games where you can kind of escape reality and, battle dragons and stuff like that. But these kind of games, you can escape reality, but reality is still tangible. And that's what makes it so enjoyable for people. I think that's what it is.
Definitely is. I mean, it's just a landmark series that came out. It really did, I think, change the face of things. And still to this day, it's going and it's still amazing. Now, when I think of some of its other kind of knockoff ones around that time, True Crime.
Yeah.
That was, I think you mentioned that one earlier. And that was one of the ones that it kind of switched it off, because you were a cop in that one. They kind of, was I right on that one? Or was that the second one? Okay.
Yeah, you played as a cop.
And it kind of reversed the roles. It's like you could still do bad things. I don't know if they're trying to cop on the grandness of Grand Theft Auto, but kind of switch it up maybe to make it seem a bit more positive that, you're a cop. And I thought, for what it was, that it was pretty fun. More than likely, if you like Grand Theft Auto, you ended up playing a lot of these other games. Now, another one I liked a whole lot. It came out about a year after Grand Theft Auto 3, which was Mafia.
Yeah.
And it's a series. It's not the biggest series around, and we're getting a new one.
Yeah, they are making a 3. Yeah.
Coming out this October. Part 1 is very simple. It's a lot less simple than it's more simple than GTA 3. It's set back in the 40s. The vehicles, they drive very slow. I know some people, they couldn't get into it just because of that. Cars could only go 40 miles an hour back then. So there's no flying through the city. But still, I love the look of it. I love the look of those old cars. I don't know how everybody stood walking around in suits like that, man. That just blows my mind. It's like just everyday job. Got the suit. Really fun game, though, still, if you like that style. One of my favorite kills I got in that game to this day. I backwards T-boned some dude up against the wall when he got out of his car. I just leaned my arm out the window and shot him and drove off.
That's awesome.
And, part 2, when it came out, it definitely was more story-driven. I like it because, like I said, it's simpler. There's not a million things to do. I tend to get overwhelmed with GTA, but this one is a little bit more linear. The only really extra things you could do was steal some cars and, break into some shops and shake some people down. Other than that, very, very story focused, lots of cinematic scenes. It really was a lot like a movie. I just played it the other day. Actually, I beat it in 2 days of playing, and I was like, wow, this game is not very long. It's only about 15 hours, if you just sit down and play through it. But just for the story, really fun. And part 3 looks like they've really, amped it up. It takes place in New Orleans, which just sounds, really cool. And I can't imagine a game like that. And that's one thing about these games too, is their locations. With GTA, you doing, Miami, New York,
The whole
Los Angeles,
yeah, California, yeah.
It's just nice to see these different areas and certain recreations of buildings and different scenes within the towns. But Mafia 3 is one, like I said, this October it comes out. It's probably going to be more expansive than the last one, but I still expect like a really good, story-driven game out of it. And as you mentioned, the State of Emergency, that was one that, it was put out by Rockstar. And it just kind of seemed to be a bit more of a cash-in, just on
it was right after
games.
Yeah, it was right after Grand Theft Auto 3, and it was more archaic. Yeah. I mean, it was like Dead Rising, but instead of zombies, it was people looting a shopping mall.
If you like escort missions, this is the game for you. That seems like all you had to do. It kind of stunk, it really just was a failure. I think it's when people played and they realized, what it was. Definitely a little bit more of a low point from Rockstar. And as you can see, like, it didn't, continue going.
Oh, no.
Couple other ones, the Driver series.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that's one I think of too. Now, this is one, I just recently played a version they put out on the Wii. Which I got for like $1. I know there's been a lot of people doing the $1 GameStop challenge. I've been buying $1 games from GameStop for a long time. And Driver was one of them. And I don't know. I think I would rather play it on a regular system. I was having some trouble, like, even beating just like the training driving mission. So I didn't get very far. But that's one. Have you played any in that series?
I played the first Driver. And it was fun. It was fun. It was actually before Grand Theft Auto 3 when Driver came out. And I remember that was the game, that people, I was in middle school where I was like, oh man, Driver. Have you played Driver? The thing that I remember most about Driver, because my memory's kind of foggy because I haven't played it in years. I really liked the crash animations in that game. At that time, when you'd crash into something and pieces of your car would go everywhere, I thought that was really, really cool. And I think the biggest deal of the Driver series, I remember, it was when Driver 2 came out, you could actually get out of the car. Like a lot of people freaked out about that. That was something. And then, of course, it was a lot more linear than Grand Theft Auto 3 because it was an older generation. But yeah, I mean, that would be a series I'm surprised hasn't came back. I'd love to see a new Driver game.
Yeah, the Wii one, I didn't know if it was like only driving or you could get out. And, when I played the Wii one.
I didn't even know they made a Wii version.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just like a port. I'm assuming it probably is of another one. I don't know if it's just called like Driver Wii, but, it's very cheap.
Wii! Going down the freeway.
But, it's one, for the $1, it wasn't bad, but I wouldn't mind trying it on a regular system, minus the motion controls. I don't know if that was part of the problem for me. Another game in that time, which was kind of a blast from the past, and we think of crime games. For a lot of us, one of the earlier ones we played was Narc.
Oh, yeah.
In the arcade, the drugs are bad. You blow up the drug dealers and little bits and pieces, and steal their stashes, and very violent. Also for its time and controversial. But Narc came back in I don't know, somewhere between like maybe 03 or 05, probably 05 sounds about right. They actually released, another gritty game. It's when more people were cussing in them and lots of dark things. You could steal the drugs and use them to enhance your performance in the game. A lot of people didn't, it didn't do very good. It's one of those ones I thought was kind of enjoyable. I was a big fan of the original Narc. So it's like I end up having to check it out. It's one I kind of forget about, and I wouldn't mind playing it again. I want to say it might have had Michael Madsen do a voice in it also. He did lots of video game work, and it was a big time too. That was, who could you snag new voices? Like True Crime Part 2 had Snoop Dogg.
I remember that, yeah.
As the voice. It might have, your player might have actually been like his likeness patterned after him too. I can't remember for sure, but that was a big thing. Well, lots of big voice actors and soundtracks, became the big focus, where it was like GTA was a really big originator of it all.
I mean, GTA actually had official soundtracks that would come out and people would buy it. You know,
yeah.
But one game I did want to mention that I think that you would really enjoy talking about briefly is Sleeping Dogs.
Sleeping Dogs, yeah.
That's a sleeper hit right there, too.
That was another one that recently, I think they put it out on PS4.
Yeah, it did get a HD remaster. I got my copy of Sleeping Dogs from our friend Josh from Games of War. He sent it to me on the 360, and I played it, and it's a lot of fun. It's very different than, you know, some of the other games, because you actually play as a police officer, and you're trying to infiltrate the Triad Gang. And this game really focused on mastering combos and fighting, and it would just make you feel so badass when you were like, and you had your martial arts, you know, meter all the way up. It would just make you feel so cool. And that, it was cool because, you know, you had Yakuza, which was like Japan, and then you had Mafia, and you had something a little different. You had more of the, you know, Hong Kong Chinese crime scene, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, like you said, the big focus on the hand-to-hand fighting was what I really enjoyed in that game. That really was, you know, fighting in all the other games before is very simple.
Yeah.
You know, a couple punches, but pretty bad, really, we could say. This is the one that actually, you know, specific moves and kicks, things you could do. It had lots of interactions, too, with the background as far as, like, jumping over things.
Yeah.
I think you could do some moves, you know, depending if your back was against a wall. A lot of things like that, and, you know, it kind of mixed in. Like you said, you're trying to infiltrate, you're undercover, so, you know, you do some good things, and you still got some bad things. You gotta almost cross the line. You know, it was just another really good one, I thought, that kind of stood out. You get some people that really were, you know, content putting out just a mediocre game. And you had other ones that really tried, I think, to do something, you know, a little better. Another funny one, I thought, was, of course, the very great, famous show, The Sopranos.
I never played that. Yeah, I never actually played their game.
Now, you were Big Pussy's bastard son. Somebody, you know, one of his Gumars, I guess, had him, and then Big Pussy got shot out on the boat. Spoiler if you haven't seen it. But so you're him, and you know they still, even though he was a rat, you know, I think the family still kind of, you know, looked out for him and took him in. So you were him. Of course, you're not one of the main characters, but all the guys from the show did the voices on it. And, you know, you go out on missions with different characters. It's one that it's not that good. If you're a fan of the show, I think it's kind of fun to play. It takes place between, I think, season like 3 and 4. So, you know, it's not, you might get some things that happen in the show referenced. But it's pretty, there's no driving, you know, it's pretty simple. Some things are really irritating. Like most everybody gets stuck where they got to untie themselves from ropes, and they're like held hostage. And I know a lot of people that just quit because it was just that irritating. But, you know, like I said, it's one, if you're a big fan of the show, it's kind of worth playing. Not anything really too great. Another one, though, one of my favorites I mentioned before, it's on it's Xbox and PS2, was Total Overdose. Just a little bit more kind of crazy style, out there game, kind of based on the Once Upon a Time in Mexico trilogy, the El Mariachi, the Antonio Banderas series. Lots of kind of crazy moves. Has a good soundtrack, kind of Latin themed. You get certain moves, you have like a sombrero and you spin around, or you get on like a bull. Just kind of wacky and very fun. And it only had one game on the consoles, and it had a game on the PSP that was a separate one. But that's another one that I just highly recommend. It's up there with Scarface for me, as far as those games that just, you know, they're just so fun.
Well, the last two that I wanted to bring up, because I mentioned all the ones that I really enjoyed, like, and you mentioned a lot of them that I enjoyed, like the Mafia series. The Getaway, it's a really good game. What I like about The Getaway is, you know, it wasn't set in the USA. It's you know, based off of London, and so it's got a lot of, like, you know, a lot of like really, really thick English accents and stuff like that. And
a lot of people really love the British gangster movies. There's a whole slew of those. I'd see how they could kind of like fall in line with those. That's one I've never played. I've only heard about it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. That one was a lot of fun, and probably one of the most successful Grand Theft Auto clones that started out as a straight up Grand Theft Auto clone, but became something completely different, and it's a lot more zany and cartoony out of the bunch of the games that we've been talking about. And of course, that's Saints Row. Saints Row the Third, to be exact, is the one that was just completely crazy. Now, when Saints Row first came out, it was very much like, oh, this is Grand Theft Auto, you know? But by the time we got to Saints Row the Third, I mean, you were having alien invasions, and, you know, you were having, you know, sexual toys as weapons, and it was very different. But, yeah, Saints Row was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was getting ready to mention that one too. As soon as you said, you know, it was really good and zany, I knew where that was going. That's one I'd still like to play some of the later titles. I never got too far in that series, but every time I played it, it was just extremely fun.
Yeah,
you know, that was like the main word to describe that one, and just the wackiness just really, you know, really just stood out. And, you know, of course, for me, another one, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, was just the Yakuza series, you know, starting in 2006. That's just one. I mean, man, playing that game for so long, the story, you know, each one is just the next chapter in this really grand, where, you know, you get to care about the characters. You know, people go into the series late. You know, at part 5, there's a stage, they split with another guy, so you don't have to do it as much. But the little girl in the series, Haruka, she's wanting to be a pop idol. So it has lots of like rhythm game sections. You have to go, you know, singing and dancing and meeting people. You know, some people, if you just start playing, you'd be like, man, what's going on? But I felt like I've known this girl since she was, you know, like 5 years old. As you've grown up through the series, and all these people, you know, you care about, you know, when they die. And that's something that just really grabbed me. And I love it. The city, you know, the first couple games, you're in the same city, which I like, because like I know
that is kind of cool. Yeah.
And it's like you always know. And then as the game went on, you get other ones maybe at a second city, another one. This one, I've been in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know, 4 or 5 just different cities now. And none of them are that big, but I like the fact that it's like you can run around the town. Like I said, that, you know, there's no cars. You can find little secret areas. Sometimes they'll open up little shops after you've done something in the game. Little things hidden away, alleyways, so many restaurants. I like it that it's, you know, it's big. There's so much to do, but at the same time, it's not so expansive that you don't get to see everything. You actually get to kind of walk around and just enjoy everything that's there. It's one that's just, man, I'm glad it's still around. You know, I'm glad we finally got the 5th one, and I can't wait for Part 0 to come out next year. And there's been some Japanese only ones we didn't get. They actually did a complete redo of the first one in Japan, which kind of got my fingers crossed that maybe it'll come out here. You know, just a complete ground up redo, Kiwami. I'd love to see that, and then people could, you know, have 0 and then start off at like 1, and people could check that out. It's just one, it's my favorite series, and I'm just glad that it's, you know, it's got that cult following and the people that love it so much. It's just managed to still stick around, and it's huge in Japan. I mean, they've had Yakuza themed PlayStation 3s come out. It's really big over there, you know, where it's more cult status over here. But the people that played it, they know what it's all about.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, I always enjoy it. It makes me so excited. Like, your enthusiasm makes me excited to play it, because I always enjoy it when, you know, I'm doing whatever I'm doing, and I'll just get a random text message from James, and he's like, dude, I've been doing this in Yakuza. And I'm like, man, that sounds so cool. He was like, yeah, you know, I was going to this arcade and I won a couple of UFO toys, and, you know, I went racing, and I'm being a taxi driver right now. And, you know, you were talking about the Japanese idol thing. I was like, man, it's such an experience. And I was like, man, so I'm hoping, you know, when Part 0 comes out, I'm hoping that it does do so well. And maybe, you know, Yakuza 5 being a free download, maybe this is like a little test with Sony, seeing how many people download, Part 5 for free to see how many people are interested. And then, Zero comes out and a lot of people buy that. Maybe we'll get that, remake of the first Yakuza HD remaster, ground up built, translated over here. I really hope that happens. I would love to see
that. Yeah, hopes for 6. It's just and things are looking good. From a time where I held off beating Part 4 because to me it was over. Like I knew 5 had come out. Like it took 2 years. I think 5 had been out before we got it over here, and I'd pretty much given up. I was like, so I didn't want to beat the game, and then finally I gave it and beat it. And then, before too long, started hearing, like 5. There was demand when they would take polls. What, import games do people want most? And it was always at the top of the lists. And, to get that with it being, download only, it's like, hey, I'll take what I can get. I was just so happy, to get it. And then to hear not long after, it's like, oh, Zero is confirmed, physical release.
Yeah.
It was just, things started looking up. So, the time was kind of bleak where I thought it was done to now it's like, man, I can't wait to see, what we're going to get. I just hope it keeps, doing good and, people check it out more and more. And, like I said, I've heard nothing but great things about Zero. Each game just adds more and more. And, lots of based around that fighting. If you're a fan of Final Fights and, Streets of Rage, to me, it kind of fits in with those, just as good. It's still at heart. It's a beat 'em up. But just the moves, get more and more brutal, slam people's heads in walls, giant swings, power bombs, beat somebody up with a milk crate. Come on. Doesn't get more fun than that.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those games that I look forward to, hearing more about. I mean, hell, the first 2 years that we did this podcast, I mean, anytime we mentioned Sega, James was like, we need Yakuza 5.
Yeah, I hated Sega for a long time.
Yeah, for the longest time. But with that being said, we're going to close the show with games we've been playing recently. Talk about that. I'm going to pass it over to you, James. What games have you been playing this week?
Well, as a while, I was, of course, still on Yakuza 5. Like I said, I'll kind of get where I've got up to the 85 hours, and, I'll be in it hardcore, and then I'll take a little break, play something else. So I popped in Mafia 2 and decided to go through that. And like I said, I beat it in a couple days. And actually a game it's kind of not necessarily a crime game itself, but it was kind of based off those, was L.A. Noire.
Oh, yeah.
I started playing it again where you're on the, the good side of the law. You're a cop, a detective, as you go through all these different horrible murders that happen around Los Angeles. Very cool, reading people's faces to see if they're lying, interrogating people, looking for clues. Once again, old-timey cars, things like that. I love the look of it, the different suits you can wear. It was a really good game. It was one my wife even enjoyed watching me play. And it's been, a few years since I played it originally, and it was one I always felt would be fun to go back to. And I've really enjoyed it. One of my favorite ones, stages on there, happened near the beginning where you have to go to a movie set and you're chasing a guy up this giant, it's kind of like an island sacrifice movie, and there's this big temple and you're having to run up it and it's falling apart. Just another really cool game. If anybody's never played that one, I think it's definitely worth checking out. Listen, been playing those. And then, on another note, as I've been seeing more and more games come out for the PlayStation 4. Of course, along with Yakuza 0, next year, where I knew I was going to have to get one. And as I looked at what games are coming out this month, I really saw Madden was the only game coming out. I was like, you know what? I think it's kind of time.
It's time.
It's time to upgrade, I think. And it's kind of thinking of the ways I could go about it. I didn't really want to get the GameStop credit card because I kind of have enough credit cards. And I was like, I was talking to my brother, and I was like, I think I might sell some of my Super NES games. And he's like, oh, what are you selling? So started talking, I sent him a list, and with the things I sold, gonna sell them, it's about 23 Super NES and Genesis titles, and I decided to let my top loader NES go as well. And with all that, I'm pretty much more than covered to get one. So
awesome.
we're just gonna wait a little bit. I'm gonna let them pay me in a couple of payments, which I said wasn't a problem because that's going to give me time to decide which model. It's going to give time for the Neo to come out. It's going to open up to where I can see maybe there'll be a price drop on another one. So
especially with the holidays. Holidays are right around the corner. They're going to have some bundles.
Yeah, some things are coming up. Like I said, I'm looking forward, to Mafia 3 a lot, and that's October. So I'm just going to kind of see, what's coming out, and then along the way, since I know for sure, I'm getting it within the next few months, I'm going to go ahead and start picking up, a couple games here and there. I know there's a lot I've missed so far that I really want to check out, and I just, I keep seeing more and more that are coming out. It's like, man, I want to play that. I'm like, man, I want to play that. And then if it does come out on PS3 as well, you're kind of facing, a more lackluster game.
Yeah.
Features will be left off, as far as like the WWE series of games. They're still doing both, but you'll still have a lot more features on the other one. And, it's that time now where more and more good games are coming out. I think coming up this year and next year is really going to get some really amazing titles. And I'm actually really excited about getting it. I was telling my brother, I said, I'm still not sure, if I'm going to, sell these games, still kind of thinking. But as we kept talking, it just became like, yeah, I'm like, why not? Like, I can still play these games by other means. They're kind of sitting there, and it's like, I really need to step into the future, or I guess really the present, is what it would be.
It'd be the future for you, definitely.
Yeah. So, I'm pretty excited about it, and I think that's, whereas before it was kind of like, yeah, I'll get one, at some point. Now it's like, yeah, I'm ready.
Well, it's a great time to get into it because there's a lot of games that are dirt cheap. I'm looking at my PS4 collection, and I don't have the biggest PS4 collection, but the little collection I do have, I didn't pay a whole lot for the games that I got. So, the games that I've talked about, for the past, year and a half when I got my PS4, those games you can check out now and you can get them for like $20. Or cheaper.
There's what was the one, like that kind of horror game, something like Just Before Dawn? I don't think.
Yeah, Until Dawn.
Until Dawn, like that. There's this game, Firewatch. I've wanted to play that since I heard about it. It just sounded interesting. I know Grib, he was always talking about a Shadow Warrior. That's another.
That's a super cheap game. That game's like $10 now.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and start picking some up as I see them, and it's just cool. I think, to be excited. Like I missed the initial launch of it, but now, it's just, I get more choices on the, newest, best system I want to get. So many cheap games now, and it's going to be that time, like I said, where I think we're going to really start seeing more and more titles of just games that you're really going to have. And, it's going to stop. PS3 is going to end. Madden. That's what you're going to get. Stuff you don't play. If you want to play good stuff, it's just, it's time to move up,
Exactly. Now, speaking of moving up, some of the games I've been playing, I bought this game off PS4. It's called Path of the Seven Godsends. And I've been playing that. It's an indie game. It plays in the style of like Ghosts and Goblins. That's the best way to describe it. But something about it is off. First thing is the controls. The controls are really weird. Like, you would think, okay, you'd hit X to jump and square to, throw your little darts and stuff. They have it where you press circle to jump and X to throw your objects. And it really throws me. Yeah. It really throws me off, man. So the first time I played the game, I was like running. I see a little pitfall and I went to go press X because that's just engraved in my mind. I went to press X and he just died. He didn't jump. I'm like, what the hell? And I found out, I was like, oh, the button mapping, and you can't redo the controls. They don't have control mapping. So what's wrong? This is just
something wrong with like the developer. Like, if you've played games like it all, you should just know how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah, I think what it is, because the more I play it, the more I look at it, and as cheap as it is, I think it was like a Flash game. I really think it was like a Flash or mobile game, and they decided just to port it to PS4 and Xbox One.
and that's what happened. I mean, it's not a terrible game. For $5, it's not terrible, but if you can look past the controls, you'll have a little bit of enjoyment. So I've been playing a little bit of that. Played some Timbo, the Badass Elephant. I still love that game. It's like Kirby meets Sonic. It's a new Sega IP that came out last year. And you just play as this elephant, and you're a badass. You're destroying bad guys and saving people. You're like this little soldier elephant. It's a lot of fun. Been playing that. I'm trying to remember what else I've been playing.
That's what I really like. A lot of these, more of these indie games that seem to be coming out. It's the ones that are catching my eye. And I know recently you got that Songs of the Deep. That's one look cool. And also there's this one, I think it just came out, called Abzu, that looks like it's really cool too.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I played Song in the Deep. I actually did a live stream when I just bought it, because this was an anticipated title, because it was like $15 physical release. It was like kind of like a indie title that GameStop helped develop, and I was just like, holy crap, and the thing that I really liked about it was like, they're coining it as a Metroidvania, but it was more like Blaster Master, because you were inside the submarine, and then you could get out of the submarine and do certain things and go back in it like Blaster Master. But I will say this, dude. It's called Song of the Deep, but I want to change it to Song of the Sleep. Art style, beautiful. Soundtrack, wonderful. Story, intriguing. But the controls, man. The controls is what broke this game. The problem is you're controlling the submarine, but you're going very slow, where all the enemies are, they're, fish and everything like that. So they're like super fast, because they're used to being in the water. You're not used to being in the water. So they're, charging at you, and it just gets, I played the live stream of it. I played about 20 minutes of it, and I couldn't play it anymore. I was like, all right, guys, I'm going to play some Timbo now. I actually switched games in the middle of the stream. I don't know, maybe I'll pick it back up and play it again. And maybe I shouldn't have, first time playing it, maybe I shouldn't have done a live stream of it. Maybe that was my first mistake. Maybe it should be one of those games that, when it's raining outside and I have nothing to do one weekend.
Maybe there's a reason it's $15. See, originally too, when I mentioned that Abzu game, I think I got it mixed up with Songs of the Deep. Just because they both look like something that happened in the water. The Abzu, I think Josh had mentioned something about it. So I don't know if he was playing it, and it just seemed, really cool. And I don't know, I keep hearing about this No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about, but it's another one that just seems like I like these games. They just seem like a lot of these games are kind of going for like a little bit like just a different kind of vibe, than your standard, like we'll still get our standard, stuff, but then we're going to get a little bit more kind of weird, odd, kind of artsy fartsy, but cool games at the same time.
Yeah, there's a lot of games like that for the PS4. I'm telling you, man, you're going to be having a lot of fun, and I look forward to future episodes when we get to these little segments, and you're like, I've been playing this on the PS4. I'm like, yay!
Like current generation stuff.
But yeah, I think this is a good closer for the episode. Definitely, maybe by the time we do episode 91, James will be a proud owner of the PS4. Maybe, I don't know.
Probably not. It's probably I'd give me till at least about like October.
Which is going to be a crazy month for gaming, man. October, November. Oh, just thinking about the titles that are coming out. I'm not going to be able to get them all, but there's a lot of...
In between that, like I said, with me stepping up to the PS4, these really cool plug and plays, it's just kind of exciting and just cool, and it looks like a really fun time, to be a gamer and involved with it all. I'm just kind of looking forward to what all's going to happen, between the end of this year and just all, NX stuff next year. Just look, man, I think lots of cool stuff on the horizon. You can get stuck in pits where it's kind of like, I don't know, but then it just turns up, and it's like, man, this is why we play these things. It's just fun.
Exactly. Well, guys, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to the newest episode of Access Gaming Podcast. And if you're listening to this on Podomatic.com or on iTunes, be sure to check out my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Xander Skullion. I do other stuff other than the podcast. I also do reviews, unboxings, let's plays, live streams, the usual YouTube gaming stuff. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, I want to ask you guys to please check us out on podomatic.com, and if you can, subscribe to us on iTunes, and be sure to give us a rating because it does help the show. It helps boost searches, and it helps people find our podcast. And the last little plug I want to put in, of course, is our Facebook group page. You can join us on Facebook. That's facebook.com/group/XS Gaming Podcast. And it is a community page. I urge everyone, if you have your own podcast, you have your own YouTube channel, maybe you're writing a blog on anime or whatever, share your content on the page. And be sure to keep in mind that even though you are sharing and plugging what you're doing, it is a community, so don't be shy. Talk to us. Let's all converse and have great conversations, just like we did today. But anyway, guys, as always, thanks for listening, and as always, happy gaming.
Have a pleasant evening, everybody.
Can't get enough of XS Gaming Podcast? Be sure to check out our audio podcast on podomatic.com. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. And if you have a YouTube channel or podcast you'd like to share, be sure to check us out on Facebook on our group page and join the community. As always, guys, thank you so much for all the support, and happy gaming.